We are here today to train all of you to use data.youthbuild.org, also known as DYB. Before we get into that training, let's make sure we're all on the same page about why DYB is important. Every program that's part of the YouthBuild USA affiliated network must provide program and student data as part of the licensing agreement. Grantees of YouthBuild USA, such as AmeriCorps programs or programs in the mentoring initiative, must provide data to satisfy grant requirements. WebSecu was the previous tool that programs used to report data. Now that tool is DYB. And that's important because some programs on the call that have been around for quite some time might hear that pushed around a little bit. You might have heard about this old program called WebSecu. We did a migration back in 2015, so a lot of the data that used to be there is now in DYB if your program is that old, beyond 2015. So, all students who participate in your YouthBuild program, regardless of funding, should be entered into DYB. By the time this webinar is over, each of you will have a much better understanding of how DYB works and be able to enter and correct data. We will also give you an introduction to the reports in DYB that make sure you know how to access support through the help desk and through the resources in our new knowledge base. DYB allows for the best data management possible, with data entry and correction able to happen at any time, not just in one reporting window. The system has easy and flexible navigation, so you can add the data that you have on hand and then come back later to finish. Multiple staff at your program can divide up the data entry work by student or content area, and reports are accessible at any time. Finally, in order to satisfy reporting requirements, we will ask you to verify that your data is up to date and accurate once per quarter. Let's get logged in. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my browser with you. Bear with me for a moment. So let's start with the basics, logging in. To log into DYB, you go to data.youthbuild.org, okay, which looks like this. Okay. Today we're going to be using a test site. So when we go and adding things into DYB, it's not affecting cohort year outcomes or the quarterly reporting outcomes. So we use a test site. So I'm going to switch back over to that now. Okay. So to log into DYB, again, as I said, you go back to data.youthbuild.org, and you're going to enter your username and password. If you're a new user, we will show you shortly how an admin user at your program can add you as a user. If you forgot your password, there is a Forgot Password link here on the lower right. Let's go ahead and click that. If you forgot your password, you just enter your email address, and click Reset Password. Then instructions will be sent to you. Also, I'd like to point out that sometimes our emails get filtered into a spam folder. So if you don't see that email within a couple minutes, just check your spam folder to see if it's there. If it's not there, get in touch with us here at DYB Support, and we'll figure out another strategy. You also notice here at the bottom is a link to the knowledge base. Right here, just this little help button. It's full of all kinds of helpful articles and how-to documents. You'll also see that there's DYB support contact information, the email and the phone number. Let's go ahead and get logged in. Once you log in, you will land on the program overview page. Now that we're here, let's talk about how most pages work in DYB. There's always a menu on the side to take you where you need to go. And the top bar will have helpful information that matches the context of the page that you are on. For example, Here we see your program information listed at the top. You have your program name, program location, sponsoring organization. You're also going to see different initiatives that your program might be a part of, YouthBuild USA initiatives, your affiliation status, provisional, full, accredited, and the last time you had a DOL grant. Okay? Initiatives like PSE or mentoring or AMC will be listed here if your program is a part of them, and AMC meaning AmeriCorps. So let's take a quick tour of the overview page, or continue this quick tour of the overview page. It's your starting point each and every time you log into DYB. It shows summaries of your student and program data, your data verification status, and we'll talk more on that later. That's right down here. So student data, program data, verification status. And down here at the bottom are 2 dials of current program outcomes, and on the right is a list of recent changes to the system. These 2 outcome dials on the left show 2 important outcomes of your current program: high school equivalency or diploma attainment and placement. By default, the 2 outcome dials that you see include all students who have exited your YouthBuild program from October 1st, 2016 through the current date, which is the cohort year in progress. This will give you a picture of how students in the current YouthBuild cohort year are performing. Later in the training, we're going to dig into these reports and show you how to change that default year to look at past years or even particular groupings of students. So for now, consider these 2 dials a snapshot and know that we will come back to them. On the right side, you'll see recent changes. This shows you the last couple of students that were edited and which users edited them. Speaking of users, one of the great things about DYB is that you don't have to go it alone. You can have many users enter data in different sections. So with this in mind, let's go to the users page and add a new user to help you with data entry. We're going to click on the users link over here on the left. And please note that only users with administrative permissions or admin permissions can see the users page on the menu. Here you will see a list of users for your program. When you are logged in, you will see a list of familiar names. If any of the users on that list are no longer active or have left your YouthBuild program, it's easy to remove them. You click on Bunsen Honeydew. Right down here, you can click on Remove User. Okay. It'll ask you to confirm. Okay. Cancel. So let's add a user to demonstrate this functionality. First, we're going to click Add User, and we're going to start by entering their email address. If you haven't noticed, I like the Muppets. This person is not a director at the program, and we're going to give them data entry permissions. So let's talk about that a little bit. The first thing that we do is choose a level of access for the user, and then we're going to indicate whether or not the user is a director of the program. The options here are restricted, view only, data entry, and admin. The most common ones are data entry and admin. An important thing to note is that the admin role is the only one who can manage program users like we are doing now. Because DYB stores personal information about your students, you should be sure to keep your user list current and delete anyone who no longer works with your program. Also, try to keep your number of admin users to just 1 or 2 so that you can carefully manage your users. So let's make this new staff member, as I just did, have data entry permissions and click Save. Once we do this, the user will receive a welcome email from YouthBuild Data with a link to create their account. Once there, the user can create their username and password. I also want to highlight that this is, in fact, the only way that the user is able to, 1, get a username, and 2, create their password. So before they click that link in that email, they do not have a username or password. And again, as I said, sometimes our emails will get filtered into a spam folder. So if you don't get it within a couple minutes, just check there. And if it's not there, get back in touch with us and we'll find another strategy to get you your username and password. Okay, only users can change their own email and passwords. Admins cannot do this. It's very easy to do and can be done from the gear down here at the bottom left. We are logged in as Scott Wiener Test. And let's say we want to update something. We're going to come down here, click the gear, and you'll notice once we click into this field, we can change our username, first and last name, and our email. You'll also notice in the upper right there's a button that we can click to change our password. Okay. I will not be doing any of that, but basically what you do is you fill in your current and then new password. And same thing here, you just highlight your fields and change as needed. Now let's get back to the program overview page and talk about each of these sections a bit more. The overview section will let you know what you have in the system and where you need to start. First is the student data summary. This section lists different types of students you have in the system and whether they have outstanding questions that need to be answered with this little issue count here. See where it says 12 in follow-up? Oops. Right in here. The issue counts let you know that some information in the system needs updating or some questions need answering. So if you see a number, that's the number of questions that are seeking an answer. If you see a green check, that means there are no issues. You will also notice active students and in follow-up. Active students are students currently in your program, and in follow-up are successful exits that are still in the 1-year follow-up period, if any. Your inactive students can have outstanding issues as well, and they will show up here. This student data summary is meant to help you figure out what might need to be done in DYB. The issues show you which groups have outstanding questions, and you can click on any of these lists to check that the right students are on them. Or, if you've logged into DYB to enter follow-up data, you can quickly get a list of students who are in the follow-up period. The next section of the page is the program data summary. This shows if the information about your program model or annual survey needs updating. You might also see AmeriCorps grant reports here. Some of these model questions are new, so some of your programs might have a few issues on this page when you start in DYB. So this program overview page gives you a guide to what you have in the system and what you need to do based on the previous data entry. When you enter new data, DYB will present you with additional questions relative to what you have entered. To illustrate this, let's go through entering a new student. We start this process by moving over to the left-hand menu and clicking on Students. What you see on this page are all of your previously entered YouthBuild students. You can split them up into different student lists by clicking on these links here at the top of the page. First, we have all students. Every student that has ever entered or imported into DYB from WebSTQ will be on this list. So most of you will have a lot of students here. With issues are students that have outstanding questions that need answering. This list could contain active or in follow-up students, anyone that needs questions answered. Next is active. These are active students in your program. In follow-up are successful exits that are in their follow-up period. And inactive. Inactive students are successful exits that are no longer in the follow-up period or any other students that left the program without exiting successfully. You can also search for any students here by using the search bar at the top of the page. Just start typing a name. You can also further organize the student list with the sorter on the right. Right over here. The options here are name, enrollment date, last updated, and issue count. You can also sort them in ascending or descending order. Select last updated here. To enter a student, we're going to scroll up and click this Add Student button in the upper right. Only a few fields are required initially. So you'll start by typing in their name, and it's just their first name, space, and then their last name. Okay. Enter an enrollment date. Press OK, and click Add. Okay. And you'll see, since we're still filtering by last updated, that Tracy shows up as our first student. So, the enrollment date that you enter should be the day that the student starts receiving YouthBuild programming and or services. You should not enter applicants into DYB. All the students you enter here will be considered in your YouthBuild program. Like we said before, all students who received YouthBuild services should be entered into DYB regardless of funding. The bit about applicants is important because if you start entering applicants, they're also going to affect your outcome metrics. So you only want to enter students who are in the YouthBuild program, not applying for it. So now that we've entered the student, you can see that they are added to the All, right up here, and Active Student Lists. You will also see issue counts next to the new student's name. This logic holds true for the whole system. When you add one piece of information, such as a student or a placement that requires more information, the issue counts will go up to show you that other questions need to be answered. I'm going to click on our new student's name, which will open up the student overview page. I also want to point out this Back to Program button, because now once we get into the student overview page, the menu items change. So if you ever need to get back to the program page, you click, or the program page or the program menu, you click Back to Program. Okay. Notice at the top of our students page, you will see a few pieces of helpful information for that student. Their status and their enrollment date will be in the upper left. And for our new student, you can see placeholders for placements, credentials, and certificates over here on the right. As you add attainments, you will see this information change. In the body of the student overview page, you will see summaries of different data pages. For example, profile. You can see the issue count of questions that need to be answered. Those counts will match the issue counts on the pages on the left-hand menu. Profile, 14 issues. Profile, 14 issues. And the same as with education. Before we move on, let's briefly highlight the types of information on these pages on the left side menu so we can get an idea of the information contained in a student record. First up is profile, which has basic demographic information as well as criminal justice information. Next is the enrollment page. This is where you enter enrollments and exits. Then contact information, which is where you can enter basic contact information such as phone or email. Then education, where you enter basic skills tests and any high school equivalencies or diplomas. Next is certificates. This is where we enter any certifications a student has earned, followed by activities. Here, you add any activities related to the specific YouthBuild USA initiatives or funding. We'll talk more about that later. Then there's AmeriCorps slots. If you are an AmeriCorps program, this is where you would enter your AmeriCorps slots and hours. And finally, placements, which is where you add any job or education placements. Okay, so now let's continue with our new student by going to their profile page in the left-hand menu. I also want to point out that we can get to the profile page by the left-hand menu or simply by clicking View Profile on the overview page. Kind of some handy shortcuts that we have on the student overview page. Okay, so click it. This page deals with key demographic information as well as criminal justice questions. And without getting into each specific question, I want to point out the way that this form behaves is the way that all forms in DYB behave. There are issue counts on the menu to the left. Each piece of missing data is highlighted in blue on this form. Scroll down so you can get a look at this. So let's go ahead and enter what we know. Sections can be entered and saved partially. And as we add and then save, we can see a green confirmation bar appear at the top letting us know that data was saved successfully. And we also will see the issue count go down with each outstanding question we answer. So let's get started here. Tracy identifies as female. Birth date. Her race. Any other information you might have, but not necessary. Marital status. Whether they're a primary caregiver or a parent. If they've been homeless in the last year. If they've ever been in foster care. Okay, and I'm going to start satisfying these questions a little bit more quickly so you can see how the form works. Now I'll click Save, and you'll see that it will bring me to the top of the page, telling me that data was saved successfully. Okay. You also notice that our issue count has gone down. And I also want to point out, and I believe I mentioned this earlier, if you learn something else about the student, or if maybe some piece of data was entered incorrectly, all you have to do is click right in to the field. Your options will pop up again. Scroll to the place where the information needs to be changed and change it. Scroll back down, press Save. It will tell us again the data was saved successfully. Okay. Come down, enter criminal justice information. Press Save, and you'll see that profile now has no questions to be answered. Okay. These questions are very familiar to many of us, but if any of you are brand new to YouthBuild or YouthBuild USA data requirements, you can reach out to us for more resources. Now that we have seen how forms in DYB save and edit, I'm going to move a little faster. It is important to note, again, now that the student is in DYB, any of your staff can work on any piece of information they have at any time, which means two people can be working on different pieces of information at the same time in different places, so long as they're logged in. There's no order in which you have to enter information. So a case manager could be entering test scores for the student while someone else at your program, an assistant, is entering placement information. Now let's go to the education page and enter this student's at-entry basic skills test and educational background. So we'll move right over here to the left-hand menu and click on education. First, let's enter how many years this student was out of school before enrolling in our YouthBuild program. Next, enter the at-entry reading and math scores for this student. You also notice that I'm typing in the date. You can type in the date, or you can select the date, depending on what's more comfortable for you. So let's take a look at this. Educational functioning level is calculated automatically. So with this in mind, let's add a post-reading test so we can see how tests are organized on this page. So we'll come over here to the Add Reading Test button, put in the attainment, press OK, save. The system knows which is a pre and post test based on these dates here. I also want to point out how to remove information in DYB. Let's say that this reading test was actually meant for another student, so it was an error. You simply click back into that reading test, click Remove here in the lower right, and confirm the delete. It's just that simple. Notice that our page still has issue counts. So let's find what information needs to be entered. The Education tab on the left-hand menu is telling us that there are still 2. So we'll scroll down and look for the blue fields. Look for an educational credential at entry. So let's say the student had a high school diploma, and click Save. And any post-secondary goals they might have. Press Save. Okay. You'll notice in the Education section of the left-hand menu, there are now no more issues. Now, let's go over to the Certificates page, right over here below Education in the left-hand menu. Now we're going to enter a certificate, and you'll see adding a certificate is similar to adding a student and adding a test or a post-test. So, now that we're in the Certificates page, you click this menu, and it's going to show you a list of certificates. Okay? This drop-down menu is pre-populated with common certificate types. You can use Other if the certificate you're entering is not on the list. Note that the affiliated network also recognizes foundational certificates such as First Aid, CPR, and Driver's License. For our purposes, we're going to enter an MCCC certificate and pick the date that it was attained. Press OK, and press Save. I'm going to click back into the certificate so I can show you how DYB pre-populates the type of certificate and whether or not it's industry recognized. See, automatically it puts in that it's a construction certificate and whether or not it's industry recognized. Our certificate is also now shown on the top bar of the page as well. Just roll over this icon up here under Certificate, and it's going to tell us what it is. You're also going to notice that since this student had a diploma on entry, that they had a high school diploma and when we entered it. So they were enrolled with a high school diploma. And if I click on it, it takes you back to the education profile. The same is true of the certificates. Okay? In case you notice something, you need to edit something, you need to add something, or you just want to see which certificates the student has. Now, let's take a look at the Activities page. It's right over here on the left-hand menu, right beneath Certificates. YouthBuild USA tracks activities that are central to specific grants and initiatives. I should be specific. These are central to YouthBuild USA's grants and initiatives. So if your program is in the mentoring initiative, for example, you may come to the Activities page and add one of the mentoring activities. In this case, you only need to add when mentoring started, not every instance of it. So let's go and add an activity. Look at the drop-down menu. Find the specific activity. We're talking about mentoring. We're going to pick a date. Press OK. What kind of mentoring the student received, and whether or not the mentor was a Youth Opportunity AmeriCorps mentor. And press Save. Now, as we continue to go through each subject area, let's enter a placement, which will be down here right below AmeriCorps slots on the left-hand menu. Placements can be entered at any time. As you receive this data, you can enter it. That is true for all of DYB. So let's add a job placement. Type in the job name. Pick the date, the job, the person got the job. Press OK. Click Save. Now it's going to bring us to this, back to the placements page, and you'll notice that our new job has 5 additional questions to be answered. So we'll click back on the job and check out those questions and satisfy them. Click on the type of job. As you'll see, there's a list of different types of jobs, and also down here the menu is unknown job type. Kind of hours, whether or not it's a green job, whether or not the placement is a national service placement, and the starting wage. Okay. And you'll see from our placements menu, or excuse me, from our placements category in the left-hand menu, that the issue counts have gone down. So we have now enrolled a student, added attainments, added background data, entered a placement and activities. But let's say now that this student left the YouthBuild program for some reason. When a YouthBuild student leaves your program, you do that, you enter that on the enrollment page. On the enrollment page, you record how the young people in your program leave by adding an exit or a leave. So let's take a look at this page. From the left-hand menu, we select Enrollment. Now let's walk through a scenario that shows how it works. First, let's look at entering an unsuccessful exit. Click Add Exit or Leave. When exiting a student, choose the exit type that best describes or matches the reasons for this student leaving the program. Click on our drop-down. So you'll see a pre-populated list. Also, something that says left for other reasons in case the reason isn't listed here. You also notice that there are many reasons that one can be an unsuccessful exit, and only one way that a student can be a successful exit. Different programs have different structures, but generally speaking, the way that a young person becomes a successful exit is by completing the YouthBuild program. So let's say that this student moved from the target area of the program on April 1, 2016. Press OK. Additional details usually can be useful in case you want to add some context to the reasons that they moved, or in this case, for the reasons that they moved, or especially if you're selecting something like left for other reasons, you might want to add some context down below under additional details. Press Save. So they moved from the target area of the program, but let's say that shortly after, that student came back to your program. All you have to do is add a return date. So let's add one. Okay, and save. If a DYB student comes back, all we do is add a return, and the student now has active status again. As you'll see in the upper left-hand corner of the student page. You can see this page now shows a narrative of this student. They enrolled on February 1, 2016, moved away on April 1, 2016, and returned on May 1, 2016. So let's continue with our example. Let's look at entering a successful exit. Click on Add Exit or Leave. Select the reason Successful Exit. Enter in the date and press OK. And any additional details you'd like to add to provide context. Not necessary, but if it's useful for you, please feel free to use it. Press Save. YouthBuild USA primarily considers students who attend and complete the entire YouthBuild program successful exits. However, there are other paths to successful exit for the young people at your program. Consult the Affiliated Network Program Design and Performance Standards Handbook for more guidance. I also want to point out that we can change and edit the enrollment date. Let's say this date is off by a couple days. So we go up, click into our enrollment date, select the correct day, press save. Enrollment dates can be changed just that easily. Now that we have exited the student, you can see that there are many issue counts indicating the system is seeking more information. You can take a look over on the left-hand menu to see how many issues there are. So let's take a look at the exit questions that need answering. First, let's start with the enrollment page. Down here at the bottom, it's asking questions about what the student's attendance percentage was during the program and how many hours of community service did the student participate in during YouthBuild. Click Save. Issue counts go down. Okay. Next up is the profile page. It's going to ask us if the student is registered to vote, and an additional criminal justice question. Did the student become court involved after entering YouthBuild? Issue counts down to 0 under the profile menu. Okay. Now let's click on the education page from the left-hand menu. Okay. Scroll down and look for our blue fields. This is asking about post-secondary prep achievements. Did the student earn post-secondary credits at your program? If we say yes, it's going to ask how many. Okay? If we say no, it does not. Did this student complete FAFSA while at your program? Yes. College placement tests? Yes. Any post-secondary applications? Yes, for this particular student. Press Save. Okay. You will also notice a new menu item in the left, that it appears only when you exit a student successfully. That's the follow-up page. All successful exits will need to have follow-up information entered for them. Your program will follow up with your successful exits for 1 year after their exit, beginning with their exit quarter. What that means in DYB is that you will be expected to update their placement information every quarter. Let's take a look at the issues here. Click on this follow-up category from the left-hand menu. Verification of placement is easy, and once you have verified placement, DYB will let you know the next time that follow-up verification is needed. You will also be asked to follow up on criminal justice questions. So let's go ahead and verify this job placement. Pick a date. We'll use today. You'll see the issue count is going down. Criminal justice questions. Pick a date. Use today. And press Save. Okay. If you have any missing placements, if you don't see them here, if you click on Go to Placements, it'll take you right to the placements page and you can add them as needed. I'm going to hit back to bring us back to our follow-up page. Also want to point out that it is telling us that no further verification is necessary. But if another verification is needed, it will tell you the date that that verification is required. So let's click back to our program and see if there are any other issues to be resolved. Click on our overview page. And it appears we have 3 issues from students in follow-up. Let's resolve those. So from the student data summary, I simply click this 13 in follow-up button. Okay, and look for the students with issues. Method man seems to have 1 under enrollment. Doesn't have community service hours. Press Save. Go back to the program, back to overview. Actually, I'm going to show you a different way to look at issues as well, just as a reminder. Just go to your students page, click on With Issues. You'll see Jenny Toomey here has 2, and they are follow-up questions. She needs to have some follow-up placements verified. Click verify, pick our date we'll use today, press save. Press save. Okay. I also want to point out that let's say you have been in touch, you're trying to get in touch with a student and you're unsuccessful. You try a few times during the verification month, you can click unable to verify. We do make that an option. If there is a placement that has ended and the student has moved on, you simply click End Placement in that job and go back to your placements page using this link here, or the Placements button on the left-hand menu, and add the new placement, or none if there's none to replace it. You also see that Jenny does have some indicators here. Next follow-up needed by March 31, 2018. Next follow-up needed by December 31, 2017. Okay, let's click back to our overview page, our program overview page, and we do not have any issues. Okay, so let's move on then to looking at your data. We're talking about tags, reports, and data verification. Okay? Up until now, we've been entering student data, relying on the system to show us the questions that need answering in order to bring all of the students' issue counts down to 0. The issue counts are a great tool guide to help you, but the system can't know everything you need to enter. Checking the data, even if you have no issues to resolve, should be a part of how you do your work. Issue counts alone are not going to tell you if important data is missing for a student. Because if your student has a placement, the system can't know that. If your student attained a certificate, the system can't know that until you enter it. If your student is part of a new initiative, DYB can't know that unless you tell it. So the issues are part of it. The other part is taking the information that you have and telling the system that that information is there. And then it can continue to help you with new questions or new issues. There are 2 tools in DYB that help you organize groups of students and then help you check outcomes: tags and reports. Let's talk about tags first. We're going to start talking about tags from the student page. I'm going to click right over here. Left-hand menu under Students. Okay. Click on All so we can see our list. Tags are a way of identifying and grouping students. Sometimes you need to work with only a subset of students. Tags are the tool in DYB that lets you do that. There are 2 types of tags: system tags and user tags. You'll see that there are boxes next to the students' names, starting with Rick Astley right here. System tags are gray and automatically generated by DYB based on the data you enter about your students. The blue ones are user tags that are created by the program or users at the program. We'll go over those next. Let's start with system tags. There are over 350 system tags ranging from demographic characteristics like sex and race to exit year, certificate type, earned, and more. The system tag you can see here on our students is the YouthBuild USA cohort year tag, indicating when they exited the program. The minute you exit a student in DYB, they automatically get a cohort year tag. Similarly, the minute you enter any information about a student, they are getting tagged in the background. Female student gets a sex female tag. Enrolled without a credential, they get a credential at entry, none tag. These tags let you break down your student list to look at just who you want to look at. Let's see this in action. First, we're going to click this button right here that says Filter Students by Tag. This opens up what we call the tag picker. You can filter your list by both system and user tags. So let's say we only want to show our female students. We'll find that tag by clicking on the Student Data Tags folder. System tags are sorted in all of these categories. Sex is asked as a part of the student profile. So let's click on Profile, then Sex, And then you can see we are down at the tag level, indicated by these single tags, whereas previous to that you would have seen double tags, telling us that there are more tags within. We're going to click Add next to the female tag, and you will see up here at the top it says for students tagged, and it says sex female. And our student list has dropped to 8 students. You can also add more tags to further narrow down the list if you like. Just click these folders right here to go back to the beginning. Let's say we want to know female tags whose age at entry is an adult. Okay? And you'll see that now we are down to 3. So you can stack these tags as a way of filtering, really filtering and specifying the list to look at exactly what you want to look at. So that's the long way to add a tag. Now I'm going to show you a shortcut. Before I do that, I'm actually going to get rid of these 2 tags and show you that if I start typing in female, after I click back into the home page, start typing in female, and you'll see that the female tag comes up. We click Add, and there's our female tag again. The only way to know what system tags are available is to poke around in the folders and get to know them yourself. And remember, you're not editing any data here. You're just filtering data in that way. So don't worry that you're going to mess up anything. So let's remove this tag again by clicking the X and then closing the tag picker. Now let's get into making our own tags. What if we want to deal with groups of students like your February mental toughness class, or someone at your program's case management load? DYB is not going to have system tags for those, but you can create user tags for just that purpose. Let's make one. We're going to choose Tags from the left-hand menu. All editing and managing of your program's user tags is done here from the Tags page. Keep in mind, all other DYB users at your program can see and use your tags and vice versa. So now we're going to make a tag for, let's see who's going to be the lucky winner today. We are going to make a tag for Amanda's case management load. So we're going to come up here to the upper right and click Add Tag. Oh, not actually sure if Amanda's here. Let's use Latasha. So this one's going to be for Latasha's case management load. Okay, so we type in the name, and we're also going to make a description. Okay, descriptions are very helpful in case someone else might have use for that tag. They know exactly which students it's working with. Okay, so we'll say this current caseload for year 2017. Okay. Press Save. And now, as you can see, we're inside the tag. Okay. Now, all of our participants are shown below. Okay. The way that you add students is simply by clicking the circle. Okay. But this is current students. So let's do a real-time example. Okay. Let's filter by enrollment date. Okay. Here you go. We're talking about 2017. Select a few students who were in the program during that year. Okay. So you can also filter students by tags if you're looking for just female students or male students or any other number of data questions that we're asking. Okay. It's a feature within the tag picker. Okay. We didn't need to do that because we're just looking for students by date. Okay. So right up here you see all participants, right? And in tag, this filter pill will show us just the students in the tag. But as you'll see down here at the bottom, Benji Movie Star was in the program during 2016, so that's actually a mistake. So we simply click the green check mark again, it disappears, he is removed from Latasha's caseload, and now we only have 6 in the tag. Okay. So now let's talk about editing user tags. Actually, before we do that, I have a couple more notes for you about how tags can be useful. Now that our new tag is listed in the tag picker under My Tags, it's there and you can use it anytime you'd like to in DYB. Okay? So if I click back here and I go to and take a look at my tag list, right? If I go to Students and click Filter Students by Tags, you're going to see that it is both here under Recently Edited or in the My Tags folder. Okay? You can group students into any way that's useful to your program using these tags and by building these tags. Some examples that we've seen in DYB are case manager tags, a particular funding source, class names, class years, cohort years, or even tags reminding staff to check on a specific student's data. You can get that specific. So now let's go over how to edit existing user tags on the tags page. So click back into tags here. We're going to click on the name of the tag that we'd like to edit. Here, if we click Edit Tag, we can change the tag name or description. Or you can even remove it completely. We see programs do this sometimes where you have a tag that's useful for a certain, for a few months, right? And then they'll remove it, or they'll just change the names to something else completely, right? Because it's no longer applicable to the information that they need to be looking at during a different time period. You can also add new students to the tag, right? Here we're still under In Tag by simply clicking All Participants, right? And let's say you're looking for a female student to add. You can go into your tag picker, type in female, add it, and now we're just looking at female students that we can add to that tag. Okay? The tag picker is a really, really wonderful tool, and you can get really, really granular with it. You can turn it into like a magnifying glass to look at very specific subsections of students. Now I'm going to show you a shortcut back on our Students page. So we're going to go to our left-hand menu, go to Students. So let's go to all of our active students. Let's move out of Tasha's caseload, so we'll unclick that filter. Now, if we want to just get to that filter, we can click on her caseload tag. That's it. They're all there. That works with every tag. Cohort year 2016, 2016-17, right? Some other tags that I created for demo purposes, class of 2015. Okay? So it'll filter automatically if you click the tags that are listed next to the students' names. So now that you're starting to get a handle on what tags are and how they work, think about this a little and see how tags can help to organize your program's data. If this training went too quickly or you'd like to hear it again, there's a short tags video in the knowledge base that walks you through it, and I'll point that out at the end of the training. Now we're going to start talking about reports. Now that you know what tags are, we're ready to look at reports in DYB. Let's choose Reports from the left-hand menu. This brings us to the Reports landing page, which highlights how your program is performing in some of the affiliated network measures, with other report links such as demographics, down here at the bottom, activities, AmeriCorps hours if you are an AmeriCorps site, exporting, and some other options. Now, don't worry if the dials and percentages are not what you expected. By default, the reports are pulling data from the cohort year tag, which is currently in progress, the cohort 2016-17 tag. This means we are talking about students who have exited your YouthBuild program from October 1, 2016 through September 30, 2017. Now, that may or may not be the same way your program defines cohorts, and that's okay. The cohort year tag is used by YouthBuild USA for the purposes of evaluating program outcomes across the network. The good news is that you can run reports on any tag you'd like, and we're going to change that tag out right now. The way that we do this is by clicking this button right here that says See All Affiliated Network Measures. Now this is going to display all 10 of the AFNet measures. Okay. So let's say we want to see how our last cohort of students performed. We're going to change the tag to 2015-16 cohort year. So let's click the X to get rid of 16-17. Click Filter Report by Tags. I'm going to start typing in 2015, and you'll see Annual Cohort pop up here, and we'll add it and close the tag picker. Now we are looking at your program's outcomes for students who have exited your program from October 1st, 2015 to September 30, 2016. The color of the dials change based on whether the outcomes are meeting the performance standard, needing attention, or not meeting the standard. Something else that might be useful is that this key shows how our program's performance compares to the AFNet standard as well as to the field as a whole, or the AFNet average. The red tick mark, which you'll see on each dial, is the AFNet standard. For example, a 75% literacy numeracy rate is the standard. The black triangle shows the average of how all AFNet programs perform during the same time period. You can also look to the top of the page and see that there are keys that define what those are. If you'd like to know more about your program's performance, you can click View Details under each dial to drill into the report to see which students are included in their corresponding outcomes. So let's click View Details under Literacy and Numeracy. Now that we are looking at the literacy and numeracy gains of students who are part of the 2015-16 cohort, you can see that the 2015-16 cohort year tag is still in force at the top of the page. Okay? So showing us exactly those students. All reports follow pretty much the same format. In the right corner is a black question mark. You can roll over to see how the measure is calculated. You may have noticed that there are a lot of these black question marks throughout DYB, not just in the reports menu. If you have a question about a page, any page that has a black question mark, roll over the tooltip, and it will give you context and information about that page or that question. In this case, for the literacy and numeracy section of this report, it's going to show us the number of students who increased at least 2 grade levels in either reading or math, divided by all enrollees who exited with either a reading or math grade level at grade 10 or below. These are the first 2 things you should do each time you're on a new report. Check the tag it's running on, and hover over the question mark for a refresher on what's being measured. Moving your mouse over different parts of the report down below is going to reveal more information. Here, for example, I can hover over a green check mark to see exactly what gain the student made. The students listed on the left are all clickable as well. If something seems incorrect or incomplete, you can click on that student's name to go to their exact page, where this data is recorded and make any updates. Bring this right over here to the education page. So this student right here, for example, doesn't have a green check mark, but I thought they made a gain. That would be a good time to click on her name and start adding some information. Okay. Another student here, Kim Gordon, as we were just looking at, shows 3 dots or an ellipsis. It says reading grade at entry 5, math grade at entry 7. This means data is incomplete for this student and the gain can't be measured yet. Perhaps this student is missing a post-test. We can click on the student to find out what information is missing and enter it if we have it. In this case, just by looking at this information from the ellipsis, you can see that there are no post-tests recorded. So if she has post-tests, we can go in by clicking her name and add a reading test, if applicable, and add a math test. Okay. It's always useful to click on the student's name if you have questions about them and to find out what information is missing so you can enter it if you have it. Let's do another report example now. This time, let's do a demographics report. In order to do that, we click the Reports button in the left side menu, scroll down. Under Students, you'll see Demographics. For this report, I want to see the demographic breakdown for my case management tag. To do that, we click the X on the default tag, which again, 2016-17, open up the tag picker, find my my most recent tag, which was Latasha's caseload, click on it, close the tag picker. So down below, we see all the profile questions that are asked of a student, broken down for just this group. Again, hovering your mouse over different parts of the report reveals more information. Hover over the names and or numbers for ratios. Okay. So you see up here, this thing that looks like a calendar icon, if you click that, you can turn those bubbles into tables. Sometimes you just want tables, right? Direct, accessible information. To drill down further and see what students are included, click on the category heading. Okay. And there's the student. There's the included students. Here's another good DYB tip. You can share the URL. All pages in DYB have a static URL. That's the web address that begins with HTTP, right up here, at the top of your browser. For example, let's say you wanted to share this demographics report with your director. You just copy the URL and paste it into an email, right? Just do a right click and copy. And then paste it into an email. If they are logged into DYB, they will see the exact same thing you're looking at with the same exact tag. This is one of the major reasons why we ask that programs always have their directors be users in DYB. So if you want to share information quickly with them, all they have to do is be logged into DYB. You can build a report, send it over to them, and they can scroll through and get the information that they need or are looking for. Okay. It's a really, really nice feature. I also want to point out something that might be useful to your program, the export function in DYB. If we go back to the reports page from the left-hand menu, you'll find it hiding near the bottom under Export, Student Data. Let's click on it. Here you have the ability to export DYB data in a pre-formatted Excel spreadsheet in a number of different categories. The export run on tags that you specify here at the top. So for example, we could do an export of just the education data for the case management class tag. So I'm going to scroll through these so you can get a sense of what the different categories are. And also keep in mind that if you wanted to run, like right now the report's running on cohort 2016-17, let's say you don't want that information. You want to run it on your case management tag. Close the tag picker, and now it's running on just that tag, right? So we have profile data, education data, certificates, activities, placement and retention, AmeriCorps slots, criminal justice data, contact information, issues, and raw data. Okay. So let's say we just want the profile data. Click on Export to Excel. You'll see in the lower right-hand corner of my, or excuse me, the lower left-hand corner of my browser, there is my download, and it's a pre-formatted Excel spreadsheet. Okay. The AFNet reports in DYB are really nice and easy to use, but sometimes you just need an Excel. Okay, so I know we covered a lot of information today, but again, there's videos on reports if you just need to review this after the training. Tags and reports are a little bit more advanced than just data entry in DYB, but I hope you have the confidence to get into DYB to play around with your own data using reports and see how you will make them work for you. Truly, DYB reports are going to make DYB more useful to you than almost any other feature. Not only do they give you analysis of how your program is performing, but they are a great way to check your data for accuracy. Make running reports part of your data entry process. Okay, a couple more pages, friends. Next up, we're going to talk about data verification, and this is a very important requirement. Data verification is how your program lets YouthBuild USA know that the data in DYB is accurate, up-to-date, and complete. So let's go back to the program overview page so I can show you how it works. So click Overview in the left-hand menu. Remember all those issues we had when we started out? After addressing all of them, we have green check marks for every group of students and for our program data section. Now, you'll see below, the Verify button is no longer gray if you pick that up in the earlier part of the training. In order for this to go blue like this, you have to get your issue counts down to 0. Then, and only then, will the Verify button become active. And the only time it becomes active is during our verifications periods, which we are in right now. October is a month where we do Verify. It's the month immediately succeeding the last quarter. So those months are January, April, July, and October. Those are our verification periods. So while an issue count of 0 is great, that's only the first step. Don't click Verify yet. Your data needs to be accurate and up to date, as it says next to the Verify button. This means enter attainments for students, enroll new students, exit graduates and other students who have left, and add any follow-up information you've learned recently. There's no order in which you need to do this in DYB. You can decide what works best for you and approach it that way. After all those updates, checking your data is a critically important step, like we just reviewed. Running reports for different groups of students is a great way to check data and make sure it looks right. Once you've got issues down to 0, made updates, and checked your data, the last step is very simple. Just click the Verify button. DYB will store information about who verified the data and when. During the month following each quarter, anytime your issue count gets down to 0, the Verify button will become active. The verification step can only be completed once during that month. Those months are January, April, July, and October. One common question is, what if I forgot to do something and I already clicked Verify? Don't worry. Data in DYB is never frozen. If you verify on a Friday and then the next minute or even following the weekend, you learn about a new placement on Monday, you can log in and enter it no problem. Clicking Verify just ensures that someone at your program got into DYB at least once during the month and certified that it was accurate and up to date at the moment the button was clicked. So let's go ahead and click our Verify button here. There you go. Congratulations. This is our virtual high five, which tells us when the next verification is due. So now that you've learned just about everything you need to know to get started in DYB, from logging in to adding users to entering student data to using tags and reports to filter and look at data, all the way down to verifying your data, we hope that you like what you've seen and feel confident to get in there and get going. It would be great if you left this training and started entering data using DYB with no questions whatsoever. But the reality is you're going to have questions. And once you have this training, there are 2 ways to get your questions answered: the online knowledge base and the DYB support team. So let's scroll down to the bottom of the page to show you how to get to the knowledge base. There's a question mark down here, and right next to it, it says Help. When you click it, the knowledge base opens up in a new window or a separate tab. Think of this as your DYB manual. This welcome page shows announcements and other important information about DYB, such as training dates and new features. It's very easy to find what you are looking for in here. You can type in a keyword or topic in the upper right-hand search box. So with that in mind, why don't we search for Add User? It's a common question that comes up. Press Enter. A list of possible article matches pop up. Let's click this first one, Adding and Removing Users. This article shows screenshots of the system and walks you through the steps to add a new user. And this is very common in the knowledge base. On nearly all of our articles, we have instructions with images, so it walks you through in a way that isn't just a page full of text. I find it to be a lot more instructive and useful this way. You can also browse all the articles by clicking knowledge base here, or by clicking YouthBuild Data at the top. I recommend poking around and seeing what's in there. Point out a couple things here. Here's a whole section on tags and reports. And right up here are the DYB training videos. There are the tags and reports. Also a quick student data entry, or quick paste intro to student data entry, and an outdated DYB webinar. This is getting updated this month. Okay. The great thing about the knowledge base is that it's open 24/7, and you can get there easily at dybhelp.youthbuild.org, or even easier by just clicking that help button at the bottom of any DYB screen. Let's get back into our DYB browser. Also conveniently located at the bottom of each DYB screen is the contact information for DYB Support and our phone number. Phone number is 617-299-9089, and email address is dybsupport@youthbuild.org. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's exit here. That's all that information. If you'd like to take a look at it, copy it down, whatever you like. If you can't find it in the knowledge base or just feel like talking to a person, please contact DYB Support. That's what we're here for. We're looking forward to helping you. Also, if something in DYB is acting strange, please let us know right away. If you see something, say something. Chances are someone, somewhere, is having the same problem, and together we can keep it running smoothly. Lastly, I want to emphasize that the only way to get to know DYB is to get in there and start using it. Play around. Give yourself some time to get familiar with DYB and see how it works for yourself. So this is the first portion of the training. Programs who are part of the AmeriCorps initiative, please feel free to stay on. Anyone else, if you have questions, actually everyone else, if you have questions based on what we talked about, please feel free to unmute and let me know. Otherwise, that is the end of our time together. As I said before, this next portion shouldn't be longer than about 15 minutes. And again, feel free to, it's a much smaller group now, so feel free to chime in if you have any questions as we go through this. Okay, within DYB, there are many useful tools that allow you to track, monitor, and manage YouthBuild USA AmeriCorps members. This video will show you how to use those tools to add slots to YouthBuild student records, add non-YouthBuild participants, track service hours, and complete program participation. Additionally, we'll use the skills learned from the last two videos on tags and reports to generate and understand AmeriCorps member hours reports. Now let's get into DYB's AmeriCorps functionality. First, I'll show you how to add an AmeriCorps slot to a student you've already entered into DYB. We're going to do that from the Students page. First, choose the student who needs an AmeriCorps slot. I'm going to do a little filtering here. Use our previous example, Tracy. Then we're going to click on AmeriCorps slots from the left-hand menu. Okay? And it'll bring us to the AmeriCorps slots page. This is where we'll enter all of your per-student AmeriCorps data. So let's take a look and see how your program will assign slots and add hours. Okay, so let's add a slot and hours here. Adding a slot is easy. Just like many other pages in DYB, we click in the upper right-hand corner, Add AmeriCorps Slot. Next, click into the field that reads Enrollment Date. This should be the day that your student started earning AmeriCorps hours and match the enrollment date entered in eGrants. We're going to select 8/1/2015. Press OK. Keep in mind that this is the AmeriCorps enrollment date, which may or may not be the same as the student's YouthBuild enrollment date. You can find the YouthBuild enrollment date on the student's enrollment page. Available slot types for the grant year appear based on the date we entered. Your portfolio manager maintains the numbers and types of slots that appear here. Choose a slot type and click Save. Click back in. You'll see that two issues emerge. Now we're going to click on this slot and start entering hours. In DYB, hours are entered monthly. We backdated the AmeriCorps enrollment, so we have a few months to update. Let's go ahead and enter some hours for August. As you enter hours, you'll see the projection tracker in the upper right change from not on track to on track. Let's look more closely at how this hourly data looks and the feedback that DYB gives you about this slot type. If we look at the info at the top of the form based on this student's hours, they are on track to finish the hour requirements for this slot type. They have completed 75 hours out of 900 for a half-time slot. They have 825 hours left to complete, and the projected end date is July 26, 2016, based on 1 year from their AmeriCorps enrollment. If we roll over the black question mark or tooltip, we can learn more about any of this information. I also want to point out that if the student exited AmeriCorps without earning an education award, you would designate that here. By clicking this checkbox in the middle of the form. You can also indicate if the student was suspended from any days at the top. Lastly, let's designate the primary service activity or activities this member is participating in. The primary service activity will match the approved member position in the member's AmeriCorps file. Depending on your program design, you may need to select more than one for an individual member. Now click Save. I'm going to unclick the Exit it without receiving an ed award for this example. Press Save. In the meanwhile, bear with me. I'm going to add this person's hours in so it's complete. Let's continue with this example and add an education award for this student. This student has completed all their hours. We'll click the green Add Education Award down here at the bottom. Choose the date. Press OK. Please note that the process is the same for members that earn partial education awards as well as full education awards. Click Save. Before we leave this page, we should look at some more editing capabilities. Everything here follows the same rules as other forms in DYB. You can edit anything at any time, or delete if need be. To edit the hours, for example, click back into any field. To remove a slot, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and on the lower right, you'll see a Remove Slot button. It will ask you to confirm, and you will click that if that is in fact what you want to do. Click Cancel. This would be to completely remove the slot from this student and not to exit a member without an education award. Now that you're getting a feel for the flexibility in DYB with AmeriCorps data and the ease with which you'll be able to do your work and make corrections, let's move on to adding non-YouthBuild AmeriCorps members. Your program may encounter the situation where you have members who are not receiving YouthBuild services but are earning AmeriCorps hours. Because these members are not YouthBuild students, they are treated differently in DYB and are entered as other participants. To add one of these members, we'll choose the Other Participants page from the program menu. See, it's right here below Students. We'll click Add Non-YouthBuild AmeriCorps Member from the top right corner of the page. We're going to enter their name. And their AmeriCorps enrollment date. and we're going to give them a full-time slot. Okay? There he is. There's Walter with 6 issues. Okay? We're going to click on our participant's name from here to enter their record. What we notice is the other participant record is very similar to our YouthBuild students, just more limited. They have a smaller profile page, contact information, and AmeriCorps slots. Let's complete the profile information first. I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. Now, let's click on the AmeriCorps slot page, which is right over here in their abbreviated student menu. Next, we're going to click on the slot and enter their hours just like we did for our last member. You'll notice that when I change that number, right, all of this changes from not on track to on track. Okay. Add an education award. And save. And you'll see there's no issues on the student overview page. Now I'd like to show you a useful tool for looking at the progress of all of your members at once, the AmeriCorps Member Hours Report. This is a great tool for looking at the progress of all your members at once. To get there, click on Reports in the left-hand menu. But first we have to click back to Program from the student record and then click on Reports. Just below the report dials, you'll see a section titled AmeriCorps. Click where it says Member Hours. You'll notice that the report organizes information by the grant year tag, and by default, the grant year is the one that's currently in progress. It is easy to change, and for our purposes, we'll change it to the 2014 grant year. So let's X out AMC 2016, open the tag picker, and begin typing AMC. Click 2014. And close the tag picker. Now, let's look at these 5 dials and talk about what information is being presented here. The first 3 dials are giving you information about those students that are still earning AmeriCorps hours, and the last 2 are showing you the big picture. Students who completed their hours and who earned an education award. Let's look at these 5 dials and talk about what information is being presented here. The first 3 dials are giving you information about those students that are still earning AmeriCorps hours, and the last 2 are showing you the big picture, students who completed their hours and who earned an education award. The Earning Hours dial shows you know how many members are currently earning AmeriCorps hours for this grant tag. So as your students start to finish, this percentage will go down. On Track is looking at the percentage of members still completing hours that are on track to complete their slot hours within the 1-year time frame. Not on Track shows you how many members are not on track to finish their hours within the 1-year time frame. Completed is showing you how many members have completed their slot hours. And finally, the Earned Education Award dial is showing you how many members have earned education awards. Just as in other DYB reports, you can jump from any member's name to their record and update their AmeriCorps hours or other data right from this page. hope you're feeling a bit more comfortable navigating the AMC functionality in DYB. To learn more about this topic, check out our online knowledge base for more tips. Get there by clicking the help link found at the bottom of any page in DYB, or just drop us a line at DYB Support via email or phone. We're happy to help. Now, one other thing that bears mentioning is that if you're an AmeriCorps program, all of this information also has to be completed before you click Verify. So, because those issues will show up. And if you are a 2016 grantee, this is a big month because AMC programs are required to submit their verifications on October 21st at the latest. Click back. And that will do it. Thanks so much for taking the time, everyone, and we'll look forward to speaking with you and seeing you whenever we see you. Thanks so much again for taking the time, and you have a great day.